I thought entrepreneurship was about building a business. But now I really think it's just as much about letting your business build you, because this is probably the biggest form of therapy, other than me going to therapy, that I've ever endured. Because every stage and every season of business is asking more of you. It's asking, are you safe enough to be seen? Are you safe enough to be consistent? Are you going to keep making promises to yourself that you're going to break? And eventually, it's really asking whether you're willing to make a decision to become that CEO, whether you know the information or whether you know the right answer or not.
Booked and unbothered, confidence and courage, mindset and messy little moves of entrepreneurship.
Welcome to the Booked and Unbothered Podcast, the podcast for high-value women navigating mindset, marketing, and messy middle moves of entrepreneurship. Here is where we turn clarity into cash and presence into power. I'm your host, Yarden Carroll, mother to 3 amazing boys, wife, storyteller, and brand engineer. Mic on? Let's get into it.
So I've been really wrestling with this question for quite some time. And the question is, when do you actually become the CEO of your company? Is it when you quit your job, when you hit your first 6 or 7 figures, or is it when you hire your first team member? Or is it when the world finally starts to take your business seriously? And after thinking through all these questions, I don't think it's any of those things. I really think those are just the moments that the world recognizes you. Those are the milestones. But becoming one starts a lot earlier than that. It starts with the decisions that you make when no one can tell you if it's the right time to make those decisions or if you're making the right decision. I think it starts when you have to trust your own judgment before you have all the evidence. And it often starts with you leading yourself before you can even lead your business. And the more entrepreneurs or service providers that I work with, the more convinced I am that the biggest thing holding experienced business owners back is not the strategies or the marketing. It's that they don't trust themselves enough to lead their business. So today I really want to challenge the way you think about becoming a CEO, because I don't think your business is waiting for some epiphany or for some breakthrough. I think it's waiting for you to become the leader of your company. I want to welcome you to the Booked and Unbothered Podcast. I am your host. I'm Yarden Carroll, the founder of Crown Creative, where we help experienced service providers and strategists turn what they know into what they want to be known for. And today, I want to have a conversation that has been sitting with me for quite some time, because I honestly don't think that entrepreneurs are asking the right questions. I don't even think that they're solving the right problems. I think that the primary problem that they have is a leadership problem. It has nothing to do with capability or intelligence, but somewhere along the way, they stop trusting themselves. So by the end of this episode, I want you to understand why self-trust is one of the most overlooked skills in entrepreneurship, and how experienced business owners unknowingly outsource their decision-making and their authority, and what it really takes to rebuild that kind of trust that allows you to make decisions without constantly searching for certainty. Because I don't believe your business grows first. I believe you do. And the way you lead yourself will eventually shape everything that you're able to build. So let's just get right into it. If you know what's interesting is that the longer I've been in business, the less I believe success comes down to the perfect strategy. And don't get me wrong, especially as a marketing person, I want you to know that strategy, marketing matters. Positioning matters. I literally help people with all of those things every single day. But I've watched 2 people walk away with the same exact strategy and get completely different results. Where one person can commit to it, they learn from the data, they make the adjustments, and they keep going. And then the other person starts second guessing themselves before the strategy has even had a chance to work. And they are overwhelmed with all of these questions about if they need to change their messaging. Is this the right niche? And from the outside, it looks like they need a better plan, but the plan was never the problem. The problem was that they stopped trusting themselves far before they had enough information to know whether the plan was going to work. And that's when I realized that the biggest bottleneck in our business has nothing to do with marketing. It's really about the relationship that we have with ourselves. It's the relationship we have as leaders. Can we be self-led? Can we be self-motivated? So I really used to think that becoming a CEO meant knowing exactly what to do, how to do it, when to do it. And that one day I would wake up and after all these years, I would have all the answers. And making decisions would finally feel easy to me. And after 3.5, almost 4 years in business, that is not what happened. That's not what happens. If anything, I think the decisions get harder because as your business grows, there are fewer people who can tell you what the right answer is. So you're asking yourself, you literally are asking yourself, should I raise my prices? Should I launch this offer? Or do I need to pivot my messaging? Or when do I hire somebody? And you can ask a bunch of people those questions, and people will have advice for you. They'll have opinions of what you should and shouldn't do, and they can tell you what worked for them, and they can help you see something that you may have missed. But at the end of the day, you, as the business owner, you still have to make the decision. And that's when it really hit me that leadership is not about having all the answers. It's really about being willing to make a decision before you have complete certainty. That can be deeply uncomfortable for people. I know it was for me, especially for people who are used to being good at what they do or having this level of success. And a lot of us have built successful careers because we were rewarded for getting the answers right. And we followed the process. We solved those difficult problems and we gathered all the information. But business does not always work that way. Sometimes there is no obvious right answer. There's only the best decision you can make with the information that you have. So for me, I have noticed that when I have had the information and I had to make those decisions, I had to dial in and I had to pay attention. I had to learn. I had to pivot. I had to adjust and I had to decide again. And that's not an entrepreneurial flaw. That is just the basis and foundation of entrepreneurship. And I think that is where a lot of experienced service providers and business owners get stuck because they are waiting to feel certain before they lead themselves to make that decision. But leadership doesn't happen after uncertainty disappears. It really doesn't. Leadership is what you do while uncertainty is still sitting in the room. It's the shift for me was realizing that I didn't need to know all the answers. Probably would never know all the answers, but I needed to trust that I could respond to whatever happened next, no matter if it worked out or not. So I think leadership really requires us to make decisions before we have all the answers. And then I asked myself, why is that so difficult for many people? And I wish I could tell you that I figured it out because I've had some huge breakthrough, but I don't have it figured out. But I honestly got to a point where I got tired of second guessing myself all the time. So even though every decision at that time felt heavy, I would make a plan and immediately wonder if there was somebody else that could help me or had a better plan, or I would feel good about my offer until I watched somebody else's content and I would finally get clear. And then I'd have one conversation or listen to one podcast episode. And then it would have me second guessing everything and rethinking my existence on life. And I had to tell myself at one point I needed to stay open. I needed to stay open to doing the research and gathering all the information, and that I was learning from people who had gone before me or who had done the right thing. But if I'm being honest, I wasn't always looking for wisdom. I was looking for someone else to have that certainty and to give it to me. And that is a huge difference, where wisdom helps you make a better decision, but certainty makes you feel like, let's be real, you don't have to make a decision. Somewhere along the way, I stopped using experts to guide me and to sharpen my thinking. And I started expecting them to just give me the answers. I even hired people to start thinking for me. And that was the real problem. And it had nothing to do with the coach I hired or the mentor or that I was constantly investing in myself. none of that was the problem, because I believe in support, I believe in mentorship, and I believe in learning from more experienced people. But there is a fine line that every entrepreneur has to learn to recognize. And it's the moment where you stop using guidance and support to strengthen your own judgment. Sometimes people start using it to replace their own judgment. And there's a fine line. And that's the moment you have to recognize that you've been outsourcing your decision making and your authority. And it happens to many of us quietly, where you ask one more person what they think, or you wait for someone to validate the decision that you already know that you need to make, or you keep gathering all this information because the gathering of information feels so much safer than you committing to making a decision. And then eventually you stop asking, what do I believe? And you start asking, who's going to tell me what to do, or who's going to tell me what to think? And that is a dangerous place to be in, because there's no coach or no mastermind or course that can frame the decision or make the decision the way you would. They don't have your values. They don't have your exact responsibilities. They don't know your business like you do. They don't have your capacity or know your goals, or they don't even know your vision. So while they can advise you, none of them can become your discernment. The problem was never about who you hired or who you invested in. The problem was that you slowly stopped believing that you could lead yourself to make these decisions. And I think that that's where a lot of experienced entrepreneurs get stuck, where no matter how many years of experience you have, they don't trust the person on the other side of the mirror making the decision, right? And it doesn't mean that you should ever stop looking for support. It means that you need to stop confusing support with permission, because any good mentor or any good coach should help you think more clearly. They should not tell you what to do and how to think. They should not make you afraid to think without. And I think that's where a lot of brilliant people go wrong, is they're looking for someone to make the decisions for them. So I want you to listen to this closely. And if you have been listening and you're like, damn, I've done that, good, because many of us have. But if you can outsource your authority and outsource your permission and decision making, you can also reclaim it. Because the goal is never for you to stop asking for help or to stop looking for support. The goal is to become somebody who can hear the advice without abandoning their own discernment or their own judgment. Because that's what real leaders do. That's what real CEOs do. They listen. They consider the information. They consider the source. And they can evaluate where it fits, but the goal is that they can decide and they can make the decision right. And they also know that no matter if it works out or not, they're going to be good. So what changed for me was that I stopped asking myself, what is the right decision? And I really had to start asking myself, can I trust myself to handle whatever happens after I make this decision? And that is the question. That's the real question that changed everything for me. Because for years, I thought that the confidence came from making the correct decision or the correct choice. But now I believe the confidence really comes from knowing you can respond or pivot, even if things don't turn out the way you hope. And most of us are not only afraid of making the wrong decisions, we're afraid that we will not know what to do afterwards. Shit, some of us are afraid to make the decision publicly. But this is why many of us keep searching for that level of certainty. And we're trying to eliminate the possibility of failure before we move. And we're often anticipating problems that we don't even have yet. You need to know there's no perfect decision. There are decisions, there are consequences, information, data, but you have to make a decision. And every successful entrepreneur that I know has launched a bad offer or had a flopped launch. Shit, some of them have hired the wrong people. And me, I've invested in things that did not pay off, or we've stayed in relationships too long. But there's a difference. The difference is not that we avoided making the decision or we avoided mistakes. The difference is that we don't allow one mistake to become proof that we are incapable of leading ourselves or of trusting ourselves. And that is really what self-trust is. It has nothing to do with you believing that you're always going to get it right. It's the belief that you're going to figure figure it out no matter what, even if you don't know the answer. And the truth is, most of us already have. And I want you to think about everything you have navigated to get where you are. Think about the problems you've solved. Think about the career you have had so far. Think about all of the setbacks that you have survived. Think about the children you've had and the pivots and how hard it was, because we all have done hard things. And none of us have gotten here because we have made the perfect decision. We got here because when things did not go according to plan, we learned, we kept moving, we adapted, we pivoted. So we already have the proof. Maybe the proof you have been looking for has been there all along. The evidence is you've made decisions and you made hard decisions. Maybe you just keep discounting them. But self-trust is not built through one big courageous moment. It's built every time you make a decision and you stay present with what happens next. And every time you keep a promise to yourself. And then every time you take responsibility instead of blaming that coach or blaming that person you hired, you have to make a choice. You have to make a decision to show up as the leader and the CEO you already are. You've already been the leader and the CEO of your life. You need to take that same level of conviction with your business, because in the moments when nothing goes according to plan, you have to lead yourself anyway. You really do. And the funny thing about all of that is that I thought entrepreneurship was about building a business, but now I really think it's just as much about letting your business build you, because this is probably the biggest form of therapy, other than me going to therapy, that I've ever endured. Because every stage and every season of business is asking more of you. It's asking, are you safe enough to be seen? Are you safe enough to be consistent? Are you going to keep making promises to yourself that you're going to break? And eventually, it's really asking whether you're willing to make a decision to become that CEO, whether you know the information or whether you know the right answer or not. And you really have to come to a point where you trust yourself to become the CEO of your life, where you have to trust yourself to lead no matter how uncertain you are, because difficult times are going to come. You're going to have to make hard decisions. But I really hope that at some point you stop anticipating problems, future problems that you don't currently have, but you really need to ask better questions and solve the problems that you currently have, which most of them have nothing to do with marketing. Most of them have to do with building that muscle and that courage to trust yourself and reclaim the permission and the authority and decision making that you have been outsourcing to other people. And there's no title, there's no revenue milestone that you're going to hit, and there's no size team that's going to replace the decisions that you have to make, because you have to keep leading before anyone else fully sees the business that you're building or before they see your vision. So as we wrap up this episode, I just want you to know that second guessing yourself is normal. Outsourcing your authority and your decision making, not so much. You have to get to a point where you know that you're going to be safe. You're going to be good no matter what. So my dad used to tell me to plan your work and to work your plan. Now, things don't always go according to plan, but as a mom, I have surpassed my boys have lived. That's an accomplishment of its own, especially I've given birth to Spider-Man, Batman, any superhero you could possibly think of. Those are my boys, 3 to heart. But that has been the most difficult thing that I've ever done, was to become a mom, where they're living proof that I'm good at making hard decisions and I'm good at making the decision right. So I have learned to stop, even if I am fearful of something, even if I am second guessing a decision that I made. I have learned to trust myself to plan the work and to work the plan. So my goal with this episode was to really help you lean into the leadership aspect that comes with building a business, that comes with becoming the CEO that you claim you want to become. You have to lead yourself, even when you don't have the answers. So if you are ready to stop second guessing your expertise and build a business that you can not only confidently lead, but that is able to package what you know into what you want to be known for, then I'm going to invite you to join my Regal Offer Accelerator waitlist. I'm going to put the link in the show notes, and I would love to have you apply to see if we're a good fit to work together. But I hope that this episode resonated with you, because in order for you to become the CEO that you want to become, you have to recognize that building the business is hard, but building the courage to lead yourself and trust yourself, that's a real goal. So until next time, I'll see you later. Bye.